7:45, about to talk about the NHL Trade Deadline. What might the Canucks do? Sportsnet 650's Joey Kenwood joining us right now. Great to see you, Joey.
Great to be here.
Before we get to Canucks, women's hockey, Canadian women's just falling short of gold. Your idea, your take on what we saw, a dramatic finish.
You know, if you didn't have allegiances to either country, were just a hockey fan, that is as good as it gets for a gold medal final. Shootout, although the shootout does suck. It's a bad way to finish a hockey game, especially the way those two teams went at it through 60 minutes and then into overtime. No team deserved to lose that game, and Canada was awesome. Even in a silver medal finish, it was just high entertainment, high drama, and it's really what we've come to expect in an Olympic Games between Canada and the United States in women's hockey.
One of the big stories out of 2018. Okay, now let's get to the big stories with the Vancouver Canucks. We already know Erica Branson signing that 3-year contract extension. Do you like this move for this team going towards the rebuild and younger players?
I do, and I think it's a move that obviously catches a lot of people by surprise, considering with the deadline not that far away, being next Monday, that look at that guy. Why wouldn't you want to sign a guy like that dresses that way to come into an NHL game? But you know what? He's a player that's battled the injury bug since coming to Vancouver, but when he has been in the lineup, he's that steady Eddie defense presence that a young core team needs moving forward. And although this team isn't bound for the playoffs this year, maybe not next year, I think he's the type of player that you need when the chips are on the line defensively in a 7-game series. And you know, he's not an old-timer. He's played a lot of hockey for a guy that's only in his mid-20s, and with a good young nucleus around him inside that locker room. He's a real good leader off the ice as well, Riaz. I wasn't at all surprised that the Canucks re-signed him to the contract, and especially to the term.
Well, he brings some toughness to protect some players like Besser, who has been a great standout story for the season. Chris Tanev, a valuable trade chip. Then we hear fractured leg for 3 to 4 weeks. Do you think any team will take the chance on him for a playoff run?
I don't think so. It doesn't mean it won't happen. Perhaps a team calls Jim Benning before the clock strikes noon Pacific time on Monday. But, you know, here's a player that's arguably the best defensive defenseman for the Canucks and one of the best defensive defensemen in all of the National Hockey League. But a player that has, as mentioned, had a lot of injuries, and one right now that's a fracture that's going to keep him out for the foreseeable future. He's a guy, though, that I just think that imagine where this team would be without him. They've leaked a lot of goals against this year, but when he's been in the lineup, those around him on defense, they just seem more calm, more relaxed. Here's a guy that's played a lot for Vancouver, is getting closer within the next couple of years to going to unrestricted free agency. I'd be surprised if he gets shopped, but sometimes on deadline day, some moves are too hard to pass up. We'll see. That'll be a real interesting one to look for.
Well, there's quite the dilemma when we look at Thomas Vanek signing a 1-year deal in the offseason with the Vancouver Canucks. Has been a standout offensively. Is it time to move him? Someone said keep him in a mentor role for the young players. Do you think the Canucks will be able to move him on Monday?
I think a lot of it will depend on if they get a dance partner from another club to make a trade with. You know, he is well ahead of his point production from 12 months ago when he was traded from Detroit to Florida for a second-round pick and a prospect. That right away would lead me and others to think that, well, then the return, if he's going to get moved this year somewhere, should be of equal, if not for higher value. A lot of it will depend, though, on what other teams are looking for, and if Vanek is high on their pecking order, then maybe a deal can be struck. But if it can't be, then the Canucks have a decision to make. Do they re-sign him maybe for another year? He's been very, very good offensively for a team that struggled to produce goals. I like what Thomas Vanek has done this year. I think if a deal is to be made for Thomas Vanek, it might not get made until that final hour of the deadline. And when we're covering it on Sportsnet 650, Riaz, all day on Monday, that might be one of the big talking points, and maybe the only talking point as far as a deal is concerned for Canucks fans to watch out for.
Sportsnet 650, tune in. You're at the arena at 6 a.m. on Monday?
I might even be there earlier. You never know. It's a long, busy morning, but all our shows will have wire-to-wire, wall-to-wall coverage, and make sure you lock it on to Sportsnet 650 next Monday. Deadline, 12 o'clock Vancouver time.
Joey's all over it, so is the crew. Thanks so much for coming by.
Thanks very much, Riaz.
We'll see what Jim Benning does. We'll take a break.